I'm joined today in the studio by someone whose working life began in one of the most inspirational decades of the last century, with one of its most inspirational figures. Professor Edgar Cahn grew up in New York and by the 1960s was a speechwriter for America's Attorney General Robert Kennedy. He devised Volunteers in Service to America, a domestic version of President John F. Kennedy's Peace Corps. With his first wife, Jean, he campaigned for civil rights and founded a pioneering law school aiming to improve legal access for the poor. Well, today he's best known as the father of time dollars, now taking hold in this country as time banks. Professor Edgar Cahn, what are time banks?
Time banks can be explained in one of two ways. Most of us know about a babysitting pool where I give an hour and I get an hour back when I need somebody to take care of my child.
Straight barter.
It's a straight exchange, and it differs from barter in a very significant way, particularly for the Inland Revenue Service and our Internal Revenue Service. It doesn't incorporate commercial exchange or price. One of the things I learned when working on it was that price values scarcity. The more scarce something is, the more valuable it is, whereas that means we devalue what is universal, what defines us as human beings, our ability to care for each other, to come to each other's rescue, to help each other. So this is an attempt to say my hour equals your hour, whether you're a doctor, a surgeon, a lawyer, a plumber, whatever. And so it starts from the premise that all human beings have something very special to contribute and that there's a world of value other than market price. So I give an hour, I get an hour, and the computer software creates a database of who's available Tuesday night, who will take care of your grandmother who only speaks Polish or Spanish or the language she speaks, and on top of that she smokes, so you've got to find a match. So the ability to find a match really is made possible by this new computer age. So we're using technology to really create the equivalent of neighborhood memory. So it's a babysitting pool with neighborhood memory, and it's multi-purpose.
That's incredible. Complicated, though. I mean, is it complicated to administer? How many people would a community need to run a time bank?
Well, the math is pretty simple. It's 1 equals 1, and I think we can manage that. It takes a person to a person and a half to manage it, to manage the core time bank, but off of that you can spin any number of satellite banks with people who are part-time handling this estate or this neighborhood or this organization. But you need a person who's out there reaching, pulling people together, doing the matching, who knows the chemistry, and usually that's a different person from somebody who puts the data into the computer bank, because that's a different kind of sense of commitment and giving.
But at its crudest, going back to your babysitting analogy, somebody babysits for an hour, they store up for themselves in the computerized bank 1 hour of anything.
Correct.
They then have a leak in their cistern or something, and they can get a plumber to come around for an hour and fix it.
Right, and all of us have had to be in 2 or 3 places at the same time sometime. We've had to wait for the plumber while we needed to go to school for our child and needed to be at work. And the ability to get somebody, probably the scarcest commodity right now is knowing whom to trust and feeling you can turn to somebody who's even a stranger, but whom you can trust actually in your own home. And what we found is that the knowledge that there's a memory, that transactions are known, means that in all of these years, 18 years in the States, 6 years here, there has been only one theft in millions of transactions, and that was a teenager who stole a cell phone, and within hours, in a very troubled estate, everybody was down on that kid. It's a matter of saying, well, I'm not going to mess up my bank account because I may need somebody someday, and so it creates a new way of imparting the golden rule.
What would you say motivates the users of time banks? Would you say it is, it's need and desperation, or is it altruism, a desire to help others?
I think people join primarily to give, to make a contribution. I think there's a basic human need to feel that you make a difference in the world, and that your being here makes a difference. we find that in every culture there's a resistance to asking for help, that there's a belief that you should do it yourself. And literally we have to require people as part of the orientation often to accept 2 hours of help and give 2 hours and talk about that resistance, because when one gives, one feels good. But if the message one sends is, I have something you need, but you have nothing I need or want or value, that's the wrong message. And it's even a worse message if what we're saying is the way you get more of my help is by having more problems, by being more dependent and weaker. So we have to give a message of reciprocal volunteering that says, I need you as well as you need me. We need each other. That's really the message of time banking.